Hi, my name is Panache, and first I'm going to be asking you guys your names and what you do and what made you do what you wanted to do.
So, my name is Daphne and Panache. I've been working in the community in a variety of jobs. The teacher, a social worker, and various things. Very long and peculiar history, but all the time through it, I've been trying to work for equality in different ways.
And my name is Morcea Walker, a child of the Caribbean, of Jamaican birth, but still a British subject. I've done community work extensively, I think since childhood, I would like to say. And yes, the joys of working within the community. I am an ex-teacher advisor. Yeah, that's me. It's me.
So today we'll be talking about minorities in churches, and my question to you guys is, what challenges, mainly Morcea, did you face integrating into a predominantly white church, and what challenges have you guys seen other people face?
Right. Well, I could speak forever on this. So in the Caribbean, born in Jamaica, at the time it wasn't, the motto wasn't, as it is now, out of many one people, but you could sense that. So I went to a Church of England church with a mixture of people. Arriving in England as a young child, aged 9, of course I want to carry on. My mother wants me to carry on my faith, as did my father to a lesser degree, but Mom definitely. So I went to the big Church of England church in Hammersmith, London West Six, very la-di-da area. And the first week, nobody spoke to us, which is not really the style of the Caribbean. Everybody like to chat and greet and have something. The second week, when we were spoken to, we were told we were sitting in somebody's seat. So my mother, the lady of common sense, just said, "Vicar, don't worry. We won't be coming back." And in that instant wave of magic, we found a congregational church, which was opposite the primary school that I was going to attend. I hadn't started because I arrived in July. So that was my okay, let's put the Church of England aside. We're not giving up our faith. We're not, sort of quarreling about it. Let's park that up. And we did. And we went to the congregational church, and what a message. Go.
So Daphne, are there any examples of challenges that you've seen other people face in integrating into churches?
In the churches I've been in, the mostly white, the current church, we've got 2 people who've come from other places, which is good for us, and they take a leading role in what we do in the church. But I have found that, I suppose because we didn't accept Black people into our churches in the initial stages, and we've still got this theological difference, if you like, in the way we approach things. It has been difficult. And I do remember when working in Nottingham, we had churches together, services every now and again. And one of the ladies there said to me, "Why is it the Black churches are only asked to sing at these occasions? We're never asked to pray or preach, but we are asked to sing." And I thought, yeah, there's a lot in that, because we enjoy your singing, but we don't want to get that much closer.
Yeah, that leads me to my next question. Why do you think there are Black churches?
Oh, when people of faith arrived, and they came out of Church of England, Baptist, Methodist, because remember, all these churches were prevalent both in Africa and the Caribbean. It came about, after slavery. Religion played a very important part in that, convincing people about a better life and so on. So when that happened, people were arriving and getting that edge of not being welcome. And part of it was, you really couldn't sit as still as you have to in a Church of England church in this country in the Caribbean. It's hot and all the rest of it. There were peculiarities about timekeeping. people are walking to these places. They could be late, but they were arriving. That was the important bit. Didn't matter that they were late. They were coming.
Yeah.
They were praising the Lord in their own way. They were probably walking with the children, and the children are late, and the hair plaiting took up time, and the boys complaining about their head and the combing and all of that was going on. So that issue, when you weren't welcome, but you want to worship, you just have to say, well, what am I going to do? I can't, let's meet at Mary Jane's house down Abington Avenue Road, because we did have these houses of size. If one person could buy a big house, we had a thing called partner, where you throw your hand each week and then you could put a deposit down on the house. Didn't go through the bank because they were difficult. And you would meet in people's houses. And I still think in some places that's what people do. They congregate in the basement of a house and have a little service and a prayer and a song. And the singing bit is very much, for me, what came out of slavery in many, many, many ways. There were choruses about we will wait till Jesus comes, and Jesus was a ship. And so we developed them into those choruses that we sing and create. And of course, some of our abolitionists were hymn writers, and they used the theme of slavery to write things. So it's not unusual for How Great Thou Art and things to be sung even at funerals, in that acceptance. So yes, I've probably spoken too much about it, but it was that need to carry on in faith, to give yourself that hidden strength where you're experiencing not nice things. You needed the church. You needed something like that. You had your barber and your hairdresser that you could chat to and tell them trouble, but church on a Sunday, your Sunday best, your hat, all of those things that are recognized. When people went to church with their hat and the Sunday best and their Bible, people would look at them and not treat them well. So yes, so there had to be an outlet.
So Daphne, why do you think there were black churches?
And I agree with what Morcea said about the non-acceptance. I was just thinking about the hat. I had to buy a hat so that I could go and worship with the black-led churches in Nottingham. Otherwise, they looked at me rather strangely. But there are these things that are important, because that's the way that you actually worship, and you feel comfortable in that.
Yes.
And we had to learn to find comfort in it, and you had to learn to feel comfort with us.
Absolutely. And although I did join United Reformed Church eventually, and there were no hats, if my mother came to visit, I always had turbans ready, or a nice hat, because she would come to church, and if I didn't have my hat, eldest child, no hat, going to church.
Not done.
And there's one of our black parishioners that often wears her hat. I think you can imagine who that is. She still wears her hat in the church. It's not the done thing. But yes, and sometimes I put my turban on because I feel that's what I want.
So Daphne, you mentioned you were an equality officer, am I right?
Yes, that's right.
What steps have you taken to change how church was back then compared to how it is now?
Well, as a racial equality officer, I was mainly dealing with people around the town rather than within the church.
Yeah.
But of course, that impinges on the church, because you then start to challenge the church in the ways that they treated people and the way they responded. So I found there was a mixture of things, if you like, both taking on cases where people were discriminated against. We won some of the cases in the court, some of them we didn't, and we went on. But as far as the church was concerned, what my job, as I saw it anyway, was to say, look, this is happening in this lovely, quiet town of Loughborough. You may not see it, but it is there. And I think that's the only thing that I could do, was to say, these are real cases. These are real people. These are your neighbours who are suffering because of racism. And you need to take notice of it. That's where I went into doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I was a child growing up. I moved to Northampton in my 20s. By then, I was a trained teacher. But growing up in the Congregational Church, which was predominantly white, it was quite unusual that my colour didn't matter. I don't know why. We were in an area. Yes, Hammersmith was very posh, but we still had our poverty and all sorts of things. And whether it's because the integration was easy because there weren't many of us, so we didn't overpower the church. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I never felt unwelcome. And then they realized I was quite chirpy and clever. So, entering Sunday school exams and things like that in this congregation and getting top marks and mattered. Or I stuttered where my handwriting was. So we were a very welcome family. My mother and father had beautiful voices. So whether that experience there was a positive one because of the gifts that we brought. My father was extremely articulate, but soon he was also the man that said, I can do a Bible reading for you. I'm educated enough, and it wasn't too big a church. So maybe we had a break, but it didn't continue, moving into Northampton with that mixed church atmosphere and still experiencing that. But finding light relief and leaving one church to join my present church because of Boys Brigade or Scouts in this instance. And my son befriended somebody. So it was left to the younger people. That's how we entered the church, via the Scouts and so on. And that's where I think the breakthrough came.
Yeah.
So what impacts do you guys think Black people have made in church from the 70s until now?
I think we've tried to resist it, to be quite honest. But certainly various churches, and I think the URC has certainly tried hard to bring people in and to get to understand and to share. And Black ministry has been absolutely amazing because it comes with totally different stories and background, and you learn something new from them. And I think gradually you begin to acknowledge that actually these people have something to offer that we're lacking. And I think that's something that we found, but it's taken time because people still think, oh, well, they don't understand and they're not very articulate. And, you were saying your father was very articulate, which helps enormously.
Yes.
And if you're used to standing up for yourself, that makes it that much easier. But we still got that sort of background of, oh dear. And just briefly, I went to Hong Kong and found I was prejudiced about being white against all these Chinese people. I had to get over that. Then I came to Loughborough and found myself with the Asian community, had to get over that. And then I went to Nottingham and started working with the Black community and found each time I had to fight this background of white supremacy, I suppose is the word. And to try and teach other people to see that was what was in the background as well.
Yeah, for me, it's having that faith. You have a faith, don't you, that says that everything is equal. It's all wonderful. Jesus came, he came to redeem and save and everybody. Yeah, the Gentiles, the Jews, anybody. So how do you put that in practice? And sometimes it's been very, very hard. I know you can walk into a church and sense sometimes it's an age thing, the older people that are not willing for that change. It was not done thus. Therefore, we don't have to accept. We don't have to accept. I dare say, perhaps in some churches where you are getting a Black congregation, some people find that difficult to maneuver, to accept, to actually say, wow, this is good. What we brought into the church was the singing. And I say to people, do you know, I could avoid a sermon and sing hymns and get the message. There are enough hymns that give me such joy or such sorrow in a positive way, such thinking, sometimes in a sermon. So when you go into a black church and people sing, there is something powerful about it. You know, you have your sermons and so on, but there is something quite passionate about singing and repeat singing sometimes.
Because I've always been taught singing a hymn is like praying twice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a really good way of looking at it. And it is. But it's come against us. Oh, what the point you made. Oh, they can only sing.
Yes.
They can only sing. But if only you could listen to our singing when we are singing, even when we're in churches where there's a hymn, you listen to when a person of color sings a certain hymn or song.
Yeah.
They sing it with meaning.
Yeah.
Not
Well, a bit of passion.
with a bit of passion, not
With the head down in
no,
the book.
no. But there are changes, and you are getting those people who can sense the unease and work it, and work it. It's not just down to the person of color; it's down to everybody to work it. And I think that's happening more and more. However, we've just had a new archbishop appointed, a lady, and the African churches are saying we're not going to accept it, you know. So then the stereotype then comes, oh, what's wrong with them, you know, and all that. So you can sense that there's probably going to be a bit of work that needs doing, you see. I think yes.
So what steps do you guys think people can take now to make people of color feel welcome in churches?
I think one, to not look surprised and aghast and think, what do we do with this person?
Yes.
I think this is part of the problem, that we just don't know how to react. And instead of working as an ordinary person, it's come to church, we tend to go all stiff and formal. So I think there is an air of saying, and I think once you begin to get to know people, then it becomes natural.
Yes.
You don't have this, oh dear, what do we do with this person? And I think we just need to get out more and mix with people and say, well, that's how, you know, our community is like this, so our church should be like this as well.
I'll add to that. Totally agree. What you don't want as well is a black person comes in. There's a black person already in the congregation. You go to the black person, you say, can you speak to them, please? And I'm now going to be in a position where I am to say no. It's all right. You can go and talk to them. But you can do that. But it does happen. You know, where they sort of think, oh, you know, Morcea can do. You know, she can have she can meet and greet. No. Show me the Eastern European that's halted and tell me to meet and greet them, because they might need to meet me on my terms first, and I can do those introductions. It's really important. It's a thing that says, and I'm looking at people who are smiling and just thinking, some of us have had that experience, you know, where we are expected to be the one to do that. But and there's plenty of opportunity. There's nothing actually totally wrong with having black churches, because some that I've been to, there's one not far away from here, is welcoming everybody. What it is black-led. I prefer to say a black-led church, absolutely, that welcomes rather than a black church. Yes, they lead services, they lead, but New Testament Church of God up the road just says all are welcome. Just rock it in when you can, if you feel like it, if it gives you that reassurance. There is work to be done, and I would like to see the church now in its role of equalities not become political in the big P, but become political in the small p, and become more aware of what's happening in our community and our society, and sort of take a more active stance to be able to fight away some of the things that are happening that, if we're not careful, will implode on us. Yes, at the moment there is unease, And I've been here since 1958, and I have battled many a thing from the age of 9 through. And now, arrived into my 70s, I do not want the same battles again. No. Because I'm tired.
I can say, and the need to blame people, yes, in the political arena in your small piece. Yes. Somebody's got to be blamed for what's happening to our society. So you pick on somebody here, and it was black people at one stage. Yeah, now migrants or whatever. So you've got to pick somebody to blame for what's happening. And I thought this is the
churches with the small p need to reassure congregations to have the right messages, and have God at the center of that message, because he's going to be really angry in his world that he's created, Oh, God, and giving us a big chance to let it work, and we're just destroying it. So,
yeah. I was going to say, this is why our church is inviting in those who are in one of the local hotels as asylum seekers.
Yeah.
Come and cook in our kitchen. You can cook what you like there.
Yes.
Get proper food. Yeah. Meet us, be part of.
And I think that message is fabulous.
Yeah.
It's now.
Yeah.
Time for churches that have got space and equipment and things. So we're doing that. Yeah. I think if you've got a minibus or 2 people that can pick somebody up and bring them in.
Yeah.
So finally, do you guys have any questions for me?
Well, yes, I do. As a young person, how are you finding things? Are you finding things as dynamically different to what we've been saying? Or have you got a message for us?
I feel like I've only started noticing certain things, like we're picking up certain things that I'm a bit iffy in the church now, because obviously before, from maybe let's say 11 and below, I didn't notice it because I wasn't mature enough, I'd say. But now it's not so much people racist. It's more like that if they're either too sensitive to talk about it, or they're gonna point it out every 2 seconds. Yeah, it's like for example, there was a new guy that came to our church, and we were in the gathering, and we started praying for people, and then all of a sudden the person that's praying is now talking about immigrants, and they're naming all the ones that have now started joining our church, and it's just like, he didn't need to do that. Yeah, but yeah.
And how are you feeling like school and society as a whole when you're not in church? How are you feeling? Are you feeling safe? Is everything all right?
Yeah, I feel like it's getting better. It's getting a lot better.
That's encouraging. That's encouraging. That's encouraging. But, we've got a unique young man. He's able to carry himself. He's from a family that carries. I wonder what happens to the weaker.
This is the difference, I think. If you're brought up in a confident way, then you can face all these things and actually cope with them in ways that some people can't. I mean, I was brought up to be very self-confident because my dad said you can do anything. And I think you are the same, bullshit. But if you haven't got that background, you can be very much put down. And I'm glad that you've got that confidence to speak up for yourself. You say you're here with a right to be here, in whatever setting it is. And I'm not talking because you're black, but because you're a person.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important for everybody to understand, because some people find that very difficult to cope with.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. It's been me, Panache, and I'm here with
Morcea and Daphne.
We nearly forgot our names.